small topic, but very scoring, easy topic. Okay, there are only few logics which you have to understand, and it is very simple chapter. You will get 8 marks from this particular chapter in your board exam. First of all, see what budget means. You must have heard this word. Like for example, you say that you to your parents that you want to buy a mobile phone, or they should give you a mobile phone. But sometimes they might say that the budget is not allowing, right? So this is and we have also done it in the consumer equilibrium, the budget constraint. So actually it is related to income and expenditures. If you have to define budget, you will define it as it is the estimate of the receipts and expenditures. Okay, simply just see this word estimate. Estimate means it is a forecast. Okay, you have just simply estimated that this would be the receipt and this would be the expenditure. So it is always made for future. Like you may say that, okay, say in the month of January, I'll earn or I'll get 20,000 as my income and I'll spend my money like this. Say maybe in activity A, B, C, D, and total money which I will spend would be 18,000 and I want to save 2,000. So it is simply the budget. That is, it is a statement showing the estimated receipts and estimated expenditures. When you say government budget, of the government for one accounting year. Okay, so these are the keywords. Budget is a statement showing the estimated receipts and expenditures of the government for 1 year. When we say budget, it can be made by anyone. Okay, the general meaning you have just understood. It is simply representing the how you will earn the expenditures or how much expenditure income you will earn in the future and what will be your expenditures. And remember, it is always made for future, because there is no use of making it for the past or for making it for the present. At present, you already know that this much money I am having and this much money I have to spend. Important characteristic of budget, you have to remember, always made for future. Then when I say individual budget, and family members can make a budget, your parents might be making a budget to run the family. Similarly, the government makes a budget to run the economy. The family budget is of less importance, but the government budget is of more importance, of national importance. You can say if there is any mistake or there is some carelessness has been done while making the budget, then there will be loss for the economy. Okay, or you can simply say it is this concept of government budget from where the government will decide what will be the sources of revenue for the government, or what will be the sources of receipt for the government, and what will be the expenditures done by the government. Now when you look at the government budget, it is divided. Oh, sorry, first we can go through the objectives of the government budget. And you must also know that the budget of India was used to be presented in the last week of February, but this year, that is 2017, it was presented on the first day of February. You might have heard it in the news. This was changed by the Prime Minister in this particular year. Before this, it was presented on the last day of February. The objectives of government budget. First objective of government budget is reallocation of resources. Okay, reallocation. First of all, let's just recall what is allocation of resource. Allocation of resource means where the resource is being used. Like for example, we have done that a land can be put to many uses, or every resource has an alternate use. So if there is a school built on a particular land, so it means that this particular resource has been utilized for or allocated to a school where we are using it. Reallocation means rearranging. Rearranging the use of resources means withdrawing resources from somewhere and putting them to some other use, because we have already done a chapter on this, that resources are limited. So when you are defining it, you simply have to explain that it means the rearrangement of the use of resources or withdrawing of resources from one particular place and allocating it to some other place. Okay, like so from the projects where there is less welfare or which are giving less benefit to the economy, from those projects the resources will be withdrawn and they will be allocated to the projects of mass welfare or the projects which can do more welfare. For example, suppose there is a building in a village area in which government is running a school. Okay, say with the capacity of 500 students. But even after working for a long time, working on to increase the strength of the strength of the school is only 200. So it means that this particular building or this particular resource of the government is not doing the welfare as it was desired by this resource. So what government can do is reduce the capacity of this school to only say 250 students and utilize the remaining space of this particular building for running a say healthcare center. Okay, so you can simply see that resources are withdrawn from the projects which are leading to less welfare and they are reallocated to the projects which can lead to mass welfare. So this is how you have to explain it if you are asked this particular objective, because individually they can be asked from you in the board exam. Okay, explain this particular objective of the government budget. Then second objective of the government budget is equality. Equality simply means reducing the gap between the rich and the poor. Okay, for this you have already seen and you already are aware of that the government uses the progressive taxation. Okay, and when you want to relate these objectives to the government budget, you have to remember that government budget simply means the planning of the government, how it is taking the money from the economy and how it is spending the money. So obviously the taxation policy also falls under the government budget. Progressive taxation means as your income increases, the rate of taxation also increases, as it is followed in India. Okay, as your income increases, the tax rate also increases. And government doesn't take any tax from the poor. You must be knowing that till 3 lakh you don't have to pay any tax in India. So it means that government doesn't charge any tax from the poor section of the society while charges more tax from the rich section of the society, so that the gap between them can be reduced. Also government uses the tool of subsidies. Subsidies are provided to the poor people. You must be aware that BPL, that is below poverty line people, are having some additional facilities are provided to this class of people by the government free of cost, like health centers for the education of their children. So another objective of government to reduce the inequality between the rich and poor. When you are explaining it, you will first write the meaning, what it means. It means to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor. And how it is done, the government uses the progressive taxation, that is higher tax on the rich and no tax on the poor, and also provides the poor with the subsidies. Okay, then the third objective is stability. Stability in the economy means keeping inflation and deflation checked. Or you can say check on the inflation and deflation. Just remember we had done the fiscal policy in Keynesian theory. Okay, that is the government's taxation, government's expenditures, deficit financing. So all these things the government uses to control inflation and deflation. So if you are asked this particular objective, then you can simply talk about the, or you can write about the fiscal policy to use inflation, to check inflation and deflation. So government tries to maintain stability so that the value of the currency can remain constant. Then the last objective of the government budget is managing public enterprises. you can say the PSUs, public sector units. All government projects, all government organizations are managed through the government budget. Means it will be decided in the government budget how much money to be given to the railway department, or maybe say to the health department of the economy. So all the government hospitals, schools, organizations, they all lie under the category of the PSUs, and the government budget is used to control or manage the PSUs. Suppose a particular health center has to be converted into a bigger hospital, so again the money will be allotted through the budget. This is the way of maintaining and expanding the public enterprises. Okay, then we come to the most important part of the chapter, that is the structure of the budget or components of the government budget. But before moving on to that topic, we have to understand the difference between two words, revenue and capital transactions. See, always remember that a particular transaction, a particular receipt or expenditure can be of two types. Either it will be revenue or it will be capital. Revenue means which do not affect the balance sheet, or you can say which do not affect the long-term assets and liabilities of the government. Those who are commerce students, they can simply understand what are assets and liabilities and what is the balance sheet. And you must have also read about the revenue expenditures, what they mean. That is in class 11. You differentiate between revenue and capital expenditures and receipts. But for the others, it is again simple to understand that these are the ones which will not affect the long-term assets of the government. Asset means whatever you own, and liabilities means whatever you owe, means whatever you have to pay. While capital means which affect the balance sheet, or they affect your long-term liabilities and long-term assets. Okay, another important characteristic of revenue transaction is that these are repeating, or you can say they are more frequent, while these are less frequent. Or you can say they are for the long period and they are for the short period, a short period of time. Again and again you have to undertake the transactions of revenue nature, while capital nature transactions you do not undertake frequently, means the number of capital transactions would be less. Okay, so you can simply understand with help of an example. We take an example. You buy a scooter for yourself, say for 50,000, and you fill this scooter with petrol, say for rupees 500. Okay, so these are two transactions which may seem to be similar, okay, but actually they are different from one another. The first one, that is buying a scooter, is a capital transaction, buying of the scooter, because this is a transaction which will affect your long-term assets. It is a long-term expenditure, while filling it with the petrol is a revenue transaction, because it is not for a long period of time. Again and again you have to do it, right? And here the assets will increase. If you are a commerce student, you can simply understand this will increase your fixed asset or long-term assets, while this is only the conversion of your cash into petrol, that is short-term assets remain the same. So you have to simply differentiate between these two words, and this is the major thing that you have to understand in this part of the chapter, and the most important thing of this particular chapter, how you differentiate between the revenue transaction and a capital transaction, because the government budget will be divided into these two, revenue budget and capital budget. So once again you can just have a look at it, and first you consider it and understand it, only then you can understand the later part of the chapter. Remember, capital transactions have the effect on the long-term assets and liabilities, that is, they change the balance sheet of the government, while the revenue transactions do not have any effect on the long-term assets or liabilities, or you can say that they do not lead to any change in the balance sheet of the government. So the components of government budget is broadly classified into revenue budget, and capital budget. Revenue budget is again divided into two parts, that will be revenue receipt and revenue expenditure, while here it would be capital receipt okay. You can just see that the revenue budget means that these are all short term receipts of the government and short term expenditures of the government, which will be repeating and which will not affect the long term assets and liabilities, while the capital budget includes the capital receipt, that is long term receipts of the government, and the capital expenditure, that is long term expenditures of the government, and they will affect the balance sheet of the government, means they will increase or decrease the assets and liabilities of the government. So first we will talk about the revenue budget. As you can see, the revenue budget is divided into revenue receipt and revenue expenditure. So first we will study about the revenue receipt. So revenue receipt, remember this topic is easy to understand if we study it like this, okay, or you also try to learn it like this, that revenue receipt is now divided into tax revenue or tax receipts, better we can call it as tax receipt, and non-tax receipt. See why they are being classified into tax and non-tax, because tax is a major source of revenue for the government. The maximum amount of money comes to the government through the taxation. Then again, non-tax receipt is divided into two parts, that is commercial revenue or commercial receipts, or you better call it commercial revenue, and administrative revenue. Just remember that revenue also means the receipt, but here this word revenue and with capital it has a different meaning. So that you have to keep in mind that this revenue is actually the revenue chapter which we have done, talking about the money receipt, and this revenue is in respect with the capital, so it has a different meaning, and this revenue has a different meaning. This you have to remember. So the tax receipts are again divided into two type of taxes which are collected by the government. You must be knowing them: direct tax and indirect tax. Okay, direct tax is the tax in which the responsibility to pay the tax and the burden of the tax both lie on the same person. Means when you are defining a direct tax, you will say direct tax is a tax where the responsibility to pay the tax and the burden of the tax lie on the same person. Say for example the income tax. Suppose it's my income tax and I do not pay it, so I will be held responsible for not paying the tax, and it goes from my own pocket, so it is a direct tax in nature. Remember, we have also done them in the national income. While an indirect tax is where the responsibility and burden lie on different persons. Okay, this is the definition. When we are defining or differentiating between direct and indirect tax, the definition would be based on these two words, that is burden and responsibility. Responsibility, burden lying on the same person, direct tax lying on different persons, it is an indirect tax. Like for example the VAT. Okay, suppose you buy a mobile phone from the market for rupees 10,000 and you pay rupees 500 as the tax. Now this is the responsibility of the seller to take this or deposit this tax with the government, but it has gone from your pocket, right? You have paid for it. So here responsibility and burden are lying on different persons. This is an indirect tax. So the major source of revenue for the government is the tax receipt, which includes the direct tax and the indirect tax. This you have to remember. Then we'll move on to the non-tax receipts. Non-tax receipt, commercial revenue or commercial receipts. Commercial means where the government is doing a business or where the government is working as an entrepreneur, means government is selling goods and services. Like for example, the revenue from railway, a government enterprise, revenue from Air India, revenue from LIC or maybe any other government undertaking, ONGC, BHEL, all those companies working for the government, or you can say they are the government companies. So whatever money the government is generating as a in form of a entrepreneur, that is known as the commercial revenue of the government. Next is administrative revenue. Again, administrative means the ruling function. Administrating a state or administration means what? Ruling a particular state. Like you have the admin office in your school or maybe in your colleges. So their work is doing the administration or ruling the particular organization. So as you know, the government is the administrator for the country, for the economy. So from here also the government can generate certain revenues. Like the first revenue which government can generate is fees. Okay, we'll write it them like this so that I can define it also for you. Okay, first administrative revenue is fees. Fees is defined as the cost of defraying a service. Cost of defraying a service means cost of taking a particular service from the government. Like for example, when you go to make your ration card or driving license or any other thing, so you have to pay a certain fee. Even for taking the services of a government hospital or a government school, you have to pay some amount of money. So that is the fees taken by the government. Actually it is not the part of entrepreneurial revenue or commercial revenue, because here the purposes of the government is to do the welfare. Okay, like you must have seen that say maybe 5 or 10 rupees is the fees in the government hospital or the government school. So it is just a sort of little bit revenue which government wants to generate through its activities. Then second is a fine. Fine is anything that you have to pay for non-compliance of law. Or the money imposed or the punishment, monetary punishment imposed on a person for breaking a law. For example, driving your two-wheeler without a helmet. Okay, so government will challan you and take the police will cut your challan your vehicle and take the money from you. That will again be going to the government, and it is known as the fine. That is the any payment made for non-compliance of law. If you have to define it, you will define it like this. Then third is penalty. You may think that penalty and fine are same, but technically penalty is little different. Penalty is for non-compliance of court orders. Means if you do not follow the orders of the court. Suppose two parties were having a dispute regarding a land or a property. The government has ordered party A to vacate that land and the party A doesn't vacate that land. So that is non-compliance of the court orders, and again you have to pay some monetary punishment or monetary penalty to the government, which is termed as penalty. So there is a technical difference between fine and penalty. Then fourth is escheat. Next is the escheat. Escheat simply means that if a person dies without a legal heir, a successor and a will, so all his property, all his bank balance will be taken up by the government. So it is also an important source of revenue for the government. Remember, only a person dying without a legal hire, may he not be or she not be the natural hire, but they should be the legal hires of the person, or he dies and there is no will also. In that case, the property and bank balance will be confiscated by the government and it is known as escheat. So this is all about the revenue receipts. Now we will talk about the capital receipts. Actually, I am not talking about the revenue expenditures, because when we will do the expenditures, you will realize that both capital expenditures and revenue expenditures are similar. So we will move on to the capital receipts. Capital receipts, when you have to define the capital receipts, you will define them as the receipts which either decrease an asset or increase a liability. Means any receipt, any money received by the government which decreases its asset or increases its liability, that is has a long term effect on the balance sheet, will be termed as capital receipt. I think that I skipped the definition of revenue receipt. So when you are defining revenue receipt, you will just write that these are the receipts which neither decrease an asset nor increase a liability. For capital it will be which either decrease an asset or increase a liability. See, it is simple to understand. Decrease an asset because money can come only when you sell something or you borrow money from someone. So receipt is possible only by decreasing the asset or by increasing the liability. So now we will move on to the components of the capital receipts. The first and the most important is borrowing of the government. When the government borrows money from some sources, government can borrow from RBI, government can borrow from international organizations, like say IMF or like say the World Bank, or from any other organization. So these are also the capital receipts for the government when it is borrowing money from some international organization or maybe from the RBI or taking loan from any other organization. Then second capital receipt for the government is recovery of loans. Recovery of loan means that any loan which the government may have given to the other state governments or maybe to some other organization, when that is paid back to the government, means any earlier loan given to the state governments or to the governments of the union territories, remember, any past loan which has been given by the central government to any other government or any other union territory is paid back to the central government, or when you can simply say when the government gets back the loan which it had given to any other organization, then it is also a part of capital receipt, because just see that the asset of the government will reduce, because whenever you give a loan to someone you record it as your asset. Then third is disinvestment. Disinvestment simply means selling the shares or the ownership of the public sector units to the private sector. Means when the government sells some part of its units or organizations, or maybe sell the complete of the whole of the organization to the private sector, it is termed as disinvestment. And disinvestment has taken place in the Indian economy since it has adopted the concept of privatization, that is 1990, one. So disinvestment is another important source for the government. And why it is a capital receipt? Because when it sells the shares of the government units to the private sector, then the assets of the government will reduce. So this is a important thing that you have to remember, the components of the revenue receipts, the components of the capital receipts. Capital receipts has three components which are the recovery of loan, disinvestment and borrowing and other liabilities, while the revenue receipt has two important heads which were tax revenue and or tax receipt and non-tax receipt. Under the tax receipt you have direct and indirect taxes, while under the non-tax receipt you have the commercial revenue and the administrative revenue. Under administrative revenue also you have various heads. Important thing that you have to understand in this topic. After studying about the receipts or the revenues of the government, now we have to study the second important component of the government budget, that is the government expenditures or budgetary expenditures. See, expenditures like the receipts are divided into two parts: revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Again, just see the definition is based on the same thing, the effect on the balance sheet. Revenue expenditures are those expenditures which neither increase an asset nor reduce a liability. Means no effect on the long-term balance sheet of the government. Such type of expenditure will not increase any asset of the government, nor it will reduce any liability of the government. While the capital expenditure, it will either increase an asset or reduce a liability. Okay, just recall, revenue receipt were the receipts which neither decrease an asset nor increase a liability, while capital receipts are the receipts which either which neither increase any asset nor reduce any liability. So this you have to remember. Okay, they are defined on the same basis, whether it is capital receipt or capital expenditure, or whether revenue receipt or revenue expenditure, just their effect on the balance sheet. Now after understanding the basic division, I told you that revenues are all similar. See how they are similar, because again revenue expenditure is divided into two: planned and non-planned. Similarly, capital expenditure is also divided into planned and non-planned. First of all, we should understand what is planned and non-planned expenditure. A planned expenditure is an expenditure which is already stated in the current 5-year plan. You know that planning in India is done on the 5-year basis, or we adopt the method of 5-year planning in India. So any expenditure which has already been written in the 5-year plan will be known as planned expenditure. While for non-planned expenditure, any expenditure which is not stated in the current 5-year plan. Say earthquake occurs and government has to pay some compensation to the victims. So that type of expenditure cannot be forecasted. So it is not written in the current 5-year plan. The basic difference between planned and non-planned. And similarly, now a planned expenditure may be of revenue nature or may be of capital nature. Similarly, a non-planned expenditure may be of revenue nature or may be of capital nature. Okay, so this you have to remember how it is classified. You simply have to learn the meaning of these two and you already know what it means here. Then again, planned expenditure can be divided into developmental and non-developmental. Again here it can be divided into developmental and non-developmental. here also developmental and non-developmental. Okay, just see that the divisions are same for all. Okay, it means you just need to know what is developmental and what is non-developmental. Again, it could be part of either the planned revenue or planned capital, or non-planned revenue or non-planned capital. Developmental expenditures are those which directly relate to development of the economy. Okay, directly related to the development of the economy. That is the expenditures like done on the improving the communication, improving the infrastructural facilities of the economy, maybe the electricity, the power, okay, which are directly affecting the economic activities. They will be known as developmental expenditures. Construction of better roads, again directly related to your development. While non-developmental expenditures are those which are not directly related to development. Okay, so see why I have not erased all these words and written them. Okay, so non-developmental expenditures are those which are not directly related to development. Say the expenditure done on defense, okay, on your borders, border forces. So, or say on the police services. So, do not directly relate to any development, but are equally important in the economy. Okay, you have to maintain law and order so that the economy can perform the task easily and smoothly. So once again, just have a look at the expenditures. Okay, you should understand the whole structure of the government budget. Okay, so now I'll just erase them so that you can quickly revive how it is divided. Okay, just see, first of all, revenue expenditure and capital expenditure, the definition I have told you, meaning I have told you. Then the revenue is divided into planned and non-planned. Capital again is divided into planned and non-planned. Then planned is divided into developmental, non-developmental, non-planned also, here also and here also. It means that you should know these type of expenditures: developmental, non-developmental, planned, non-planned, capital and revenue. Right? Expenditure can lie in this, this and this, or maybe say this and this, in three categories. The question which will be asked to you very often in this type of from this topic, they would give you some of the expenditure. Say the money paid by the government to the victims of a calamity. You classify it into a revenue or a capital expenditure, giving a reason for that. So suppose like the statement I said, the compensation given to the victims, that will be a type of revenue expenditure because it neither increases an asset nor reduces a liability. Say if the government sells its shares to a private sector unit, disinvestment, remember yesterday we had done it. So that type of receipt will be a capital receipt because it has reduced the asset. So you have to remember, say government starts a new school or a new hospital, so it will be a type of capital expenditure because it will increase the assets of the government. So it is important for you to understand this logic, and questions will be based on this. Okay, now after understanding the components of the budget, that is the expenditures and receipts, we have to move on to the types of budget. Means when we are preparing the budget, how many types of budget can be prepared? First of all, you can have a balanced budget. Then we can have a deficit budget. And then we can have a surplus budget. Okay, balanced budget means when the total receipt is equal to total expenditure. The amount of money received by the government from the economy is equal to the amount of expenditure done by the government in the economy. Neither there is shortage nor there is excess. Second type of budget is deficit budget, where total expenditure is more than the total receipt. Means say government has received say 500 crores and it has spent 600 crores. That type of budget is a deficit budget. There is shortage. Surplus budget is when the total revenue is more than the total expenditure. Okay, say the government has earned 600 and has spent 500. So here the government will have a overall balance of gain in 100 and here overall balance will be shortage of rupees 100 crores, right? So these are the three types of budget. Now just see a balanced budget, we can understand, okay, as much the government is taking, that much it is spending. Surplus budget, the government is taking profit, no problem. But here there is a problem because here there is shortage of money. You have to spend 600 crores and you have received only 500 crores. So this type of budget is a budget which we have to study in detail. Why we are studying in detail? Actually, if you are looking at this particular meaning of these budgets, you might say ki if the government is making this type of budget, the government is inefficient. You may say that the government is bad or the government is inefficient. Okay, but it is not like this. Okay, this is a better government which is making a deficit budget because it is trying to spend more in the economy, and it also depends on the type of economy. For a developed economy, say for USA, I can make this budget, surplus budget, no problem, because already the developmental expenditures have been done in the economy. But talk about the Indian economy. So we need a deficit budget because more money needs to be invested by the government, say for construction of the road, say for electricity provision, say for communication improvement or providing the better communication services. So you can simply understand that for a developing economy, like India, you always need a deficit budget, or you can say whenever the government of this economy will make a budget, it will always make a deficit budget because it is trying to invest more or spend more in the economy for the developmental activities. So this is an important question of the board, that is a deficit budget sign of government inefficiency. Okay, so your answer would be that no, it is not the sign of government inefficiency. It simply shows that the economy is in a developing phase, so more expenditure is needed in the economy to make it a developed economy. So you have to remember that the deficit budget is not actually a inefficient sign of the government. It is the government is spending more in the economy. Okay, we have to study the deficit budget in a detailed manner, right? Or the budgetary deficit in a detailed manner, because see, much of the planning will be needed for accomplishing a deficit budget because you are having the shortage of money, so you need to arrange for that particular money. So next is the budgetary deficits. There are three type of deficits. First is revenue deficit. Second is fiscal deficit. Third is primary deficit. Okay, so these are the three type of deficits which can occur in your budget. Revenue deficit simply means the excess of revenue expenditure over revenue receipt. Remember here expenditure will be more because it is a which type of budget? Deficit type of budget. So revenue deficit is revenue expenditure minus revenue receipts. It simply shows that how much the government how much shortage of money the government is having in order to meet its revenue expenditures over revenue receipts. Then second is the fiscal deficit. So if you have to define the revenue deficit, you will define it in the way it is the excess of revenue expenditure over revenue receipt, and this is the formula: revenue expenditure minus revenue receipts. Fiscal deficit is total expenditure minus total receipts except borrowing and other liabilities. Okay, just look at it carefully and try to understand it. It is total expenditure means revenue expenditure as well as capital expenditure. Then total receipt, it means the revenue receipts, all revenue receipts and all capital receipts, but except the borrowing and other liabilities. This is important thing. It means that this fiscal deficit is showing me how much money the government has actually borrowed to meet out the deficit. See, total expenditure, I am saying all the expenditures I have covered, means all the things of the government structure. Just you can have a turn around and have a look at the structure of the budget, where you will find total expenditure would mean all the expenditures are covered, and total receipt would mean all revenue receipts are covered and all capital receipts are covered other than the borrowing and other liabilities. Say for example, the total expenditure of the government was say 500, okay, and the total receipts except borrowing and means excluding the borrowing and other liabilities was rupees 450. So it means that fiscal deficit will be equal to 50, right? And this 50 is actually equal to the borrowing and other liabilities, because this 50 rupees the government will need to borrow from some other agency. So I can also say that fiscal deficit is also equal to borrowing and other liabilities. Okay, so do not get confused why fiscal deficit is equal to borrowing and other liabilities, because it is actually showing that how much money, how much shortage of money the government is actually having while taking the total expenditure and the total receipts of the government. This is the meaning of fiscal deficit, and when you are doing it numerically, then you have to remember the fiscal, for calculating the fiscal deficit, you take the total expenditure means the revenue expenditure as well as the capital expenditure and the total receipts. But from the total receipts, one thing should be excluded, that is the borrowing and other liabilities. This would be given to you in the question. Remember, the capital receipts include three things: disinvestment, plus recovery of loans, and plus borrowing and other liabilities, right? So from the capital receipt you will take only these two. This is the important thing which you have to remember while doing the numerical, and this is to be taken care of, that you are not adding the borrowing and other liabilities, otherwise your fiscal deficit will come as 0 if you take them also. So if you are getting 0, it means that you have done this mistake, you have taken the borrowing and other liabilities also into the total receipts. So this is the basic meaning of fiscal deficit, and there are certain implications of the fiscal deficit. First we will just have a look at the implications, then we will move on to the primary deficit. Actually all the deficits have similar implications. Okay, so some implications or some effects of the fiscal deficit. The first one is that it increases the burden of debt on the future generations, or you can say the forthcoming governments. Suppose the government continuously borrows from international organizations to meet out its fiscal deficit, then it would lead to more burden on the future generation. Second is it increases the interest payments, increases the burden of interest payments on the economy. The government has to pay the interest on those huge borrowings which it is doing from the foreign agencies. It creates inflation in the economy, because the government will need to charge more taxes from the people to overcome its expenditures. So that it can again increase the prices of the commodities and lead to inflation. It can lead to foreign dependence. Okay, Okay, a country economy continuously borrowing from some agency, so it can lead to the foreign dependence of that particular economy on some other economy. Okay, so these are the basic implications of the fiscal deficit, and they are common for all the deficits. So if you are asked a question on the implication of the fiscal deficit or revenue deficit or primary deficit, you can use these four, and maybe more are given in your book, so you can go through them also. Okay, then the last type of deficit is the primary deficit. Primary deficit is equal to fiscal deficit minus interest payments. These interest payments refer to the interest paid on past borrowings, the old borrowings of the government. So primary deficit actually shows me that how much money the government has required besides its interest payment. Like for example, suppose the fiscal deficit is coming out to be say 500 crores. So you would think that the government has invested 500 crores from borrowing it from some other source. This is only what fiscal deficit implies, that this much the government has borrowed to meet out the deficit. But suppose out of this 500 crores, suppose 50 crores is interest payment. So it means out of this 50 crore, the 500 crores, 50 crores have been used by the government to pay the interest of the past liabilities. So actually it has invested only 400 or spent only 450 crores in the economy, but it borrowed how much? 500 crores from the from some other organization or from outside, or you can say from foreign economies. But 50 crore out of it has been spent on the payment of the interest. So primary deficit actually gives me the correct picture how much the government is spending in the economy.